Here we go. We're recording live. We have the great honor of hearing from Rabbi Klatzko today. Today is Wednesday, May 13th. It's 5:30. And we have Jews from around the United States here and Canada, some from Canada, logging in to hear some words of Torah from Rabbi Klatzko. Without further ado.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I've been informed that I should be getting an actual microphone, not using my Mac, but can you hear this okay? Is it still loud enough? Okay, good.
That's fine.
So, who are we? Who are we? So we are our actions. We are our actions. We're not our nose. We're not our hair. As a matter of fact, since you were born, your skin has peeled off many times. You've been regenerated, and you're not the same person you were born. You know, we're totally different. The cells have died. We are not our skin. We're not even our arms. And the proof of that is that if, God forbid, your arm was amputated, you'd still be the gingy Jew. So you're not your arm, and you're not your leg, because if, God forbid, you lost your leg, you'd still be you're not your brain, because even if your brain was not working or you'd be in a coma, you would not appreciate someone who took a magic marker and gave you a mustache. Well, you already have one, but a fake one, right? So what part of you is you? So you're your soul, and that manifests in this world through our actions. So we are our actions. So on one hand, we don't want to be judged as our actions. We want to be judged despite our actions. But in the end of the day, we are our actions. So to be a little bit crass over here, if somebody lies consistently, but they insist, no, usually I tell the truth, I can be trusted. The reality is that you are your actions. So you are a liar, you're a politician. You are that. You are your actions. If you're a giving person, you believe you are, but you don't really give anyone anything or much, then you're not a giving person. You believe you're a giving person. Maybe theoretically you're a giving person. Maybe you say that inside of me waiting to burst forth, waiting to jump out is a giver. But the reality is today you're not a giver. We are our actions. And this is really important to know. If somebody says, again, to be a little crass, someone says, I'm a good Jew. I'm a good Jew. Well, we are our actions. So if you don't do Jewish things, then whatever you're describing as a good Jew is not the same as what the world describes as being a good Jew, because good Jew means I do Jewish things in a good way, or I do Jew good. I do Jew well. So if I don't keep Shabbos and I don't keep kosher and I speak Lashon Hara and I don't put on tefillin, well, either you're defining Jew differently. You're a Jew, but to be a good Jew, you're not doing Jewish in a good way. So there's a certain reality that we have to live with, which is that we are our actions. Now, the good thing is, the positive spin on that is that if our actions are in general positive actions, then the voice inside of us that says you're not good enough or you're not such a giver. But if your actions say you are, then you could turn back to that voice and say, no, I actually am a giver. Or if you fight to keep Shabbos and you fight to put on your tefillin, then you have the right to say, no, I am a good Jew, or I'm trying to be a good Jew, even if that voice inside of you is trying to put you down. So we are our actions. Now, here's where it gets a little bit sticky. We are not monotone. We're not monochromatic. We have color. We have moods and mood swings. We have times that we're in the mood and times that we're not in the mood. We are inconsistent. I don't speak Lashon Hara unless I just did. You know, I daven with Kavana unless I didn't daven with Kavana. Like we are a mixed bag. And therefore, when it comes to defining ourselves, we're not sure how to, because we're so erratic. In psychology, one of the great triggers to depression is inconsistency, and even more internal inconsistency. When we believe A, but we do B, that creates a tension of how we look at ourselves. I believe A, but I do B. I believe it's good to do this, but I don't do it, or I don't do it consistently. And that creates a tension, and that tension creates depression. Like, I feel inadequate. So we want everything to be as aligned as it could be, that our actions are aligned with our belief system, and we want it to be consistently so. And that's going to be the talk of that we're going to speak about right now. That's going to be our topic. I'm going to begin with an interesting Gemara in Masechtas Nedarim. The Gemara says that if I make a promise, whether a neder or a shvua, different kinds of promises on the object, on the action, but if I make a promise, then I have to keep that promise, right? That makes a lot of sense. And if I don't keep the promise, I have to bring a korban, to bring a sacrifice. What if I make a promise that is impossible? I make a promise, for example, that I will stay up for a week. I won't go to sleep. Says the Gemara, the person gets a punishment, like in, actually you get malkos, which are lashes, and you can go to sleep right away. Because we know at the outset that you can't accomplish it, right? It's a promise that is impossible, okay? So there's different kinds of promises. Now let's say someone makes a promise to do a mitzvah. Well, let's say someone says, I make a shavua, I promise I'm going to put on tefillin. Is that promise valid? Let me put this out on the table. You could unmute everyone, just make it a little interactive. What do you think? Can I make a promise to put on tefillin?
Didn't you already promise to put on the tefillin? Like, didn't we all?
Who said that? Who said that? I can't see you. Gingy Jew nailed it. Home run. Home run. I cannot make a. There you go. That's a swing that it's a roid swing. Anyways, you don't know what I meant. That's okay. I was thinking Mark McGuire. Yeah, Barry Bonds. There we go. Conseco. Anyways, so if I make a promise to keep something in the Torah, the Gemara says, "Kvar mushba va'omed mehar Sinai." The promise is not valid because I've already promised at Mount Sinai that I'm going to do this, so I can't re-promise on a promise. Got it? We all promised at Mount Sinai. I have a really interesting painting at home. If you ever come to my house, it's the National Revelation at Mount Sinai. It's a beautiful painting. I had it custom made. But what's interesting is the artist hid in this painting faces that you can't see when you first glance at it, in people's clothing, in the scenery, faces. And the idea is supposed to be that besides the people who were there physically, spiritually, we were all there. Our faces or our souls, we were all there. So we, you, me, Eric, Johnny, Aviv, we all promised Hashem we're gonna put on tefillin. So the Gemara uses another example. The Gemara says the example. The Gemara asks a question, and the Gemara says, "What if I promise to learn Torah? Is that promise valid?" So the Gemara says, maybe that is a promise, because I can technically fulfill my duty of learning Torah by saying Shema, Shachris, and Arvis. I can fulfill my duty by saying Shema, because Shema is actually words of Torah. That's why before I say Shema, there's a time to say Shema every morning, right? I think it's like 9:20 something this morning, the later time, like 9:22 or something. To look it up in myzmanim.com. Good. You've seen that, right? MyZmanim, a really good website. So before I say Shema, let's say I wake up in a huff. Oh my goodness, it's 9:18 and Shema's 9:22. Before I go bam, I say the Birchas HaTorah because I have to make a bracha before I study Torah, and Shema's in the Torah. So the Gemara says, maybe I can fulfill my duty to learn Torah simply by saying Shema in the morning and the night. And the Gemara says, no, because really, a person is chayav lilmoid hadir b'kol koychay. A person has to learn all the time with all of his strength, and when you're not doing something else could be sleeping or eating or making a parnasa, making a living. That also counts. But otherwise, it's again, this is going to sound very Haredi, very right-wing, but it's a question whether you could just veg out in front of Netflix. Because you have to figure out those 2 hours I could have been studying Torah. Now, you could answer, which I think today is totally valid. A person could say, my mind is going to explode. I need this vegging time so that I can study Torah. And I think certainly for today where our minds are cuckoo with stimuli, that we do need some time to go and walk in. Good. Yeah, Johnny?
Yeah, I had a question. Not to sound too yeshivish, but don't we learn in Mishnah Maseches Peah that there is no Peah, there's no limit, no maximum, no minimum to certain mitzvahs, and including within that is learning Torah, Talmud Torah. So couldn't we answer the Gemara back and say that we could fulfill it by saying Shema?
Yes. So Johnny, I'm going to be speaking about that Mishnah in Peah soon.
Oh wow! Okay.
So
reading your mind, Rabbi.
Yeah. Don't read the good parts. Okay.
It's all good.
Yeah. Well, so here we go. So really, a person, the Gemara says, it has an obligation to learn all the time. So there's a Ran. Now, who's Ran? His name was Rabbeinu Nisim. He was a Rishon, and he was a Rishon that wrote on all of the Talmud. And at the side of the Masechta, normally you'll have a Rashi on the inside and Tosfos on the outside. And Rashi was the grandfather of a lot of the Baalei Tosfos. There were about 50 major Baalei Tosfos. And there was Rashi, who was their grandfather. You've got Rashi and Tosfos, and Rashi explains the pshat, the simple explanation. And Tosfos is very complex and asks questions on Rashi or questions on the Gemara. Okay. But if you look at Masechtas Nedarim, has anyone here ever learned Masechtas Nedarim? Okay. Masechtas Nedarim, instead of Rashi and Tosfos on either side, you'll see Rashi on the inside, but instead of Tosfos on the outside, you'll see the Ran. Now there still is Tosfos and some little letters at the side, but there's the Ran. And when we learn Masechtas Nedarim, we don't learn Rashi usually. Instead of Rashi, in this Masechta we learn the Ran. And the reason why is because we say that Rashi is not the real Rashi. We don't have the Rashi on the Nedarim. And actually, according to some opinions, the Rashi on Masechtas Nedarim was written by Rashi's daughters. They were quite scholarly, by the way. And, to say that we don't like women who are scholars, what do you mean we print in our Nedarim? Okay, but that's not the point over here, but it is there. But Rashi's daughters, as great as they were not considered as great as Rashi. And what makes it even more difficult is when we learn Rashi as compared to every Rashi in all of Shas. That's how we learn by comparison or what I like to call hyperlinking. Every Rashi hyperlinks to every other Rashi, but you can't hyperlink if it's a different author. So what we do is we learn the Ran, and the Ran on Nedarim is one of my favorite words in all of the Yiddish. It's a very geschmack. You know that word geschmack, right? It is like eating the most perfectly done steak. I am obsessed with the Ran in Nedarim. The Ran in Nedarim, you read it and it tickles your brain. Its logic is just so clean. It's fun. It's literally, you want to know what fun is in Torah learning? Learn Nedarim with Ran. And it's just breathtaking. I can't stop. Anyways, so the Ran writes on that piece of Talmud where it says a person has an obligation to learn day and night. So the Ran says these words, Shechayv kol adam limud b'kol koicha yom v'layla, Torah kivi koicha, that a person has to learn day and night according to their strength. As a great rabbi of mine once said, you know what it means to learn consistently? It means that when you come into the Beit Midrash, or we like to say the Beis Medrash, you come into the Beis Medrash, you know what you expect to find? The Ark, the Aron Kodesh, the Bima, the benches, and Johnny, and Eric, and Gingy. Like, as much as I expect the Aron to be there, like if the Aron suddenly went missing, I'd say, wow, who stole the Aron? Who stole Johnny? Who stole Jared? Jared's gonna, the bench, the Bima, and Sinai. Like, that's called consistency. Now, in Hebrew, something that is consistent is called tamid. Tamid. And we have this word all over the place. There was a korban that had to be brought every morning and every night. And that korban was brought in the weekday. It was brought on Shabbos. It was even brought on Yom Kippur. And that korban actually kept the Beis HaMikdash going. When the Romans discovered that this korban keeps the Beis HaMikdash going, and they had blocked off the walls of Yerushalayim, so the Jews were sending up buckets of gold so that they can get the sheep for this korban. And this korban was called the korban tamid, the constant korban. Of course, when a Jew who was a turncoat told the Romans, you know, you're messing up because as long as you keep supplying sheep, even though, yeah, they're giving you lots of gold for it, you'll never be able to destroy them. So the next day they sent down a pig. And that ended Tamid, that ended the sacrifice. Then eventually the temple was destroyed. Tamid. Tamid means consistent. The fire that we have that burns in the Beis HaMikdash at that time, actually right behind Gingy. He's reminding me of it, that little image, that fire. It's sort of what it looked like, actually. It was actually set up exactly like that. It's funny you have it. That's called the Eish Tamid. And if you go to any shul, they'll have a fire by the Aron Kodesh, and that's called the Ner Tamid. Tamid means consistent. What about a person who studies Torah consistently? They are known as a masmid. Masmid from the word tamid. When I went to Yeshiva, the greatest title that you could earn, the greatest title, was not the biggest scholar. No, that wasn't it. It wasn't the person with the greatest brains. It wasn't the person who had the most svarim. It was, Rabbi Hurwitz will tell you the exact same thing. It was the masmid. The masmid. The masmid was the greatest badge of honor. That was the person who was always there studying. They were the ones. And today, I'm 52 years old. I could still name you every masmid in the yeshiva. I bet Rabbi Hurwitz can do the same. Just name the names, because those were the ones we looked up to, the consistent ones. Now, let's speak. So that's masmid and Torah learning. Let's speak about, in general, the power of hasma, of consistency, and then we're going to go back to Torah learning and mention Peah, like Johnny said. My father is a Baal Tshuva. I grew up religious, and he was a doctor, went to medical school, very brilliant man. And, after he did the math, he said, okay, this stuff is true. No time like the present to make my move. And he did, and eventually married my mom, who was an FFB, and, they had me, and I hope they're okay with that. So one of the things my dad taught me, which was what he grabbed from his journey as a Baal Tshuva, is the beauty of Temidus. He used to say, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I mean, yeah, grow up as a Jew, but you may want to take things on as life goes on. You may want to take on a custom. You may want to decide, you want to only stand during Torah reading. You may want to decide, I'm going to be very careful in Mayim Achronim, the water that we wash our hands before eating bread. Or I'm going to put on a jacket before. Or I want to wear a gartel. Or whatever it is, as we grow, we take things on, right? We all have done that. My father taught me this brilliant truism. He said, I'm not going to tell you what to take on. Your relationship with Hashem is your unique one. But I am going to advise you the following. Whatever you take on, make it consistent. Don't be a yo-yo dieter. You know what yo-yo dieting is? Today I'll do it, tomorrow I won't, because it is demoralizing. And like I said earlier, it's depressing. So before you take something on, think about it. Do I want this to be part of my life? And then you embrace it and absorb it into your very essence, into your being, into your practice, and that becomes you. Now, of course, there are times that we drop things because of circumstances, but be in the habit of only taking things on if you're going to do it for the rest of your life. And I absorbed that lesson in a very big way. And what it does is, number one, before I take something on, I think about it very carefully. And once I take it on, I don't think about it again. It's just me. Now, in AA, it's not an expression, there's a way to illustrate this. They say that between who we are and who we want to be, there is a ravine. And we're on one side of the cliff. And in order to make that great change, we got to get to the other side of the cliff. And as long as we're on our side of the cliff, even if we're not touching alcohol, even if we're not overeating or whatever our struggle in life is, we are still on the wrong side. We've got to get to the other side and say, you know what, there's this cliff. I am here now. I'm no longer that person. And that's called Temidus. We absorb, we take on, and it becomes part of us. And then we grow. And this is how we grow. We keep on adding different mitzvos, different minhagim, different character traits to our repertoire. So when it comes to dieting, we say, you know what? I'm not going to diet to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to change my relationship with food. You know what I'm saying? And this way, if I lose that weight, I'm not losing it and then getting it back. My relationship has changed. A Temidus, right? Hashem to be able to say about us. Let's see what Gingy says. I get so curious. He says, if you want to diet, you have to come off the diet. Yeah, but the point is not to diet, but the point is to change the relationship in the first place. It's hard. It's very hard. But that's why, that's why any change that we make, especially to character, is a momentous feat, which should be applauded. Okay. Let's get back. So that's when it comes to every mitzvah. And we get into that mindset that this is going to be me. So for example, if you say, I'm going to wear tzitzis, you don't put them on one day and take them off another day. Don't put them on. I would don't put them on until you're ready to make this you. Because if you do, it becomes an optional thing. And once it's optional, so other things are optional. Today I wear the yarmulke, tomorrow I don't. Daven, tomorrow I don't. Absorb those things Now, it's true. We are inconsistent beings, and there will be times that at the moment I say it's forever, and then I slip. But remember what the commitment was. Now let's get to learning. And our dear friend Johnny here mentioned Peah. I want to do a little math with you, if I may. I'm not a math guy. I don't like math. But this math, you could do it. I don't have my calculator on me, but you could help me. Every mitzvah that we do is huge. And the reward for that mitzvah is something that we cannot fathom. So much so that any reward that Hashem gives us in this world is just like, it's a taste. It's what we call peros. It's just like the extra fruits, but the actual reward for that closest to Hashem, we don't have the physical ability to absorb that reward. And if you think about it, it makes a whole load of sense. Because think about the greatest pleasures in this world, and when you think about it hard, you'll realize that they're all pretty anemic. They really are. A steak. I love a roasted. Okay, I have a steak. I work. I go to the store. I make my dishes dirty. I wait. I defrost it, and then all for what? All for 2 seconds on my tongue. 2 seconds, and then it's gone. It's in my stomach. Now I got a stomachache. I got dirty dishes, and I have less money in the bank. And all in order to repeat that cycle. What an anemic sense of pleasure a steak is. Honestly, it really is. It doesn't mean I don't enjoy a steak. I do. But our minds have a way of romanticizing pleasure in a way that builds it up. But earthly pleasures are a guaranteed letdown. They really are. They are. So is sex. So is roller coasters for a kid. You know, the kid roller coaster, they're waiting for Six Flags for an hour and a half for that triple loop. I mean, 2 hours. Finally, it's their turn. And in 90 seconds, the whole shebang is over. 90 seconds, and you lost your yarmulke on the ride. So you're now spending another hour trying to get the guy to jump over the fence to risk his life to get your yarmulke because you didn't want to take it off, even though he says take it. Let's not go there. Bottom line, the pleasures are anemic. So clearly, when Hashem had in mind great pleasure, it was not things that can be satisfied with this and that. Right? It's just not. Interestingly enough, the Muslims and Islam, when they promise pleasures in the Quran, they're all earthly pleasures, which makes me laugh. You get your virgins and you get your streams of wine because they cannot fathom greater pleasure than stream. Like it's like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Like, wow, streams of chocolate. Let's like stuff our come on. That's the whole pleasure. Just like how much chocolate your stomach can only take like 2 handfuls of substance. Like how much chocolate can you eat? Yeah, buffet. A Jew at a buffet. Oh my goodness! Hi, like it's attacking at a shmorg. You come late to a wedding. You know, it's coming late. Coming late is come for the chuppah because you missed the best part, right? You didn't get those little hors right? Anyhow, the pleasures are anemic, but the pleasure for doing a mitzvah, oh my goodness. This world, anemic. 70 years, 80 years. No, you don't get corona. You get 80 years. God willing, 80 years, 82, 84. If you go walking every day, right? That's the great pleasure. Next world, nitzchias, forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Every part of infinity is infinity, right? Like the Mandelbrot design. For those of you that like, right? You can just keep going. It's just every part of infinity. Okay, we got a Mandelbrot guy. Okay, that makes me happy. So when Hashem promises pleasure, it's not this world, it's the next world. And every moment of that pleasure is infinite and the time is infinite. So every moment you're experiencing infinite pleasure and you're going to experience that infinitely. Wow, that's a total mind blow, right? So you can't compare steak to infinite pleasure. And it's the kind of pleasure that it says in Chazal, it says in Torah, it says in Torah, an eye can't see, we can't fathom. Now, due to lack of time, fractal math, I love it. Okay, there we go. So, due to time, I would love to share with you a few stories, but we don't have time. But the bottom line is that for every small little act, I'll share with you a 20-second story. There were two ladies who used to go collecting, and one of the ladies said to the other, they used to collect money for charity, not for themselves, for a charity. And one of the ladies said to the other, you know what, let's make a deal. When we die, whoever dies first should come to the other one in a dream and say, what is the reward for us collecting? One of them died first, and she came to the other one in a dream. And first off, she came a year later. So the friend said, I'm so glad you kept your promise. Why a year? And the friend who died said, you know why? Because you don't know how painful it is for me to leave Olam Haba to come down to this world. We know from Sefer Shmuel that in order to come to this world, like Shalom Melech, you have to actually leave the next world to come down to this world to appear. It's like complicated, but not getting into it. But the lady said, it took me a year just to pull myself away from this pleasure. And then the lady said, you know how great the pleasure is in the next world? The greatness of that pleasure is such that this lady said, once you and I went collecting, and we came to the house of a miser, a well-known miser, and no one ever went collecting from him, but you looked at me and you pointed to that house and said, hey, maybe let's just try to go to that house. Whatever happened, whether the miser answered or not, this lady said, you don't understand, you cannot fathom the reward that you're going to get for lifting your hand to point at the house. Just the act of lifting your hand to point, let's go collect. Every action is so full of connection to Hashem that just lifting your hand to point is going to give you a reward that you cannot imagine, let alone collecting, let alone giving to the poor people and so on. So it's a mind-boggling amount of reward, every mitzvah. Now, it says in Peah, getting to Johnny, Talmud Torah keneged kulam. If I study Torah, I get the reward of all the mitzvahs. Now, what does that mean? So I heard from the great tzaddik, Reb Brevda, who was a great orator. He was a Baal Musar, and he was very close to our family, Reb Brevda. And he used to say, it means, and I'm going to use a yeshiva expression, pshutai kemashma'ai. Its simple explanation is just the way it sounds. When you learn Torah, it's as if you kept Shabbos, kosher, tefillin, didn't speak Lashon Hara, fasted on Yom Kippur, just got a bris milah, on and on. 613 commandments just by learning Torah. Right now, you listening to Torah? 613. But let's continue. The Chafetz Chaim says, 1 second, how much Torah do I actually have to learn to get the 613 commandments worth of reward? Says the great Chafetz Chaim. Ready for this, Jared? You ready, Eric? Says the Chafetz Chaim, one word. One word of Torah, you get the reward as if you did 613 of the hardest and easiest, most timely mitzvahs. It's as if I brought a korban chatas, and a korban asham, and a shlamim, and a mincha, and a toda. It's as if, you name it. Every word of Torah is equal to 613 commandments, and every one of those commandments have a reward that lasts forever, that is infinitely pleasurable. Says the Chafetz Chaim, 1 second, let's do the math. How many words can I say a minute? So how many words do we say a minute? So about 200 words a minute. If you think about it, people think I say a word a second. No, I don't. If I said a word a second, then it wouldn't be 1,002, because that's already 3 words in 1 second. But if you hear the way I speak, I'm speaking more than at least 4 words a second. You understand what I'm saying? So you're listening to Torah at a rate of about 200 words a minute. So now, if you do the math and you're listening to Torah, anyone have a calculator on them? 200 mitzvos, 200 words times 613 commandments. So how many mitzvos, the reward of how many mitzvos am I getting per minute of this Torah class? I cannot see because it's blanking it out.
122,600.
Not bad for a minute's work.
Rabbi,
How
isn't learning Torah also a mitzvah?
Yes,
So,
you get the mitzvah for it itself.
613 squared every time?
Yeah. Well, you just broke my mind, but yes. Very good at these. So, wow. So 1 second. So if I learn Torah for 5 minutes, can you just click times 5 to that?
It's 613,000 on the dot.
Bam! That was all planned, by the way. No, it wasn't. That's just like coolness squared. Okay, there we go. Well, that makes sense. And then what about an hour of learning? You don't have to do the math. What about a day in yeshiva? Wow. That's why at the end of our lives, the great judgment will be won and lost through Torah learning. You know how the rabbis of your campus, and I know them all, how they push you, go to yeshiva, go to yeshiva. Rabbi, I can do it at home. I'll put on tefillin. No, that's not the point. Every word, 613 mitzvahs, connection to Hashem in the sweetest way. We say, Lulei sarascha shashui, without Torah, I'd be lost. Do you know that the Jewish people, instead of being smacked around by COVID-19, we're jumping on Zoom. We're learning on the phone. My kids are studying. The Torah is the lifeline. You know, we sing, Eitz Chaimi, or Eitz Chaimi, Lama Chaziyikim. You all know it. What does Eitz Chaim mean? Eitz Chaim means what? The
Tree of life.
Tree of life. What's a tree of life? What's a tree of life? So we picture, in the Garden of Eden, there were 2 trees. And this is the tree of life. What does that mean? Chaim Volozhner says, it's not what you think. You may think it's a tree of life because it's a tree that, in the Garden of Eden. Says Chaim Volozhner, no. You should be picturing something else. You should be picturing that we are in a raging river and we are powerless and we are being swept downstream, and maybe we're not such good swimmers and we're going to be sucked under. We may drown. And all of a sudden, as we're gasping for air, a tree, a big trunk of a tree comes drifting down that river, and I grab onto it for dear life. Says Rabbi Chaim Volozhner, that's what I should be picturing. It's a tree of life. It's a tree that I hang onto for dear life when I feel like I'm drowning, when I feel like I've lost it. So I finish. There's much more to be said, but I finish with these words of chizuk. We all have the ability to learn Torah on our own. It's better. You do it in a yeshiva. You're surrounded with other people who are inspired and enthusiastic. When you're not in the mood, they're in the mood, and a little bit of Jewish guilt gets you back in your seat. You have great teachers who are not just willing, but they live to transmit the beauty and intricacy of Torah. And it's just a wonderful opportunity. Rabbi Horowitz, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
The Shaar goes from what hour to what hour each day?
The earliest class starts 10:15 in the morning Eastern,
Okay,
and the last class ends at 10 p.m. Eastern.
and it's going on all day, the entire day.
I mean, there's breaks like for lunch and supper, but there's opportunities on different tracks, for people morning, afternoon, and night, plus
Okay.
one-on-one chavrusas.
Fantastic. Okay, this is wonderful. I think we're living in an amazing time. I'm looking at your faces. It's not on a phone, and you're all very serious b'nai Torah. And I give you the bracha. You should become masmidim, which means the people who love being consistent. You show up and you learn. And Hashem says there's so much you have to gain. And Hashem says, I will make it worth your while. Where's Sinai? A second.
Man, may He bless His people. Blessed.
Yeah,
Here he is, Sinai.
Sinai. Okay. Where are you? Are you on Sinai?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you're right here. Yeah. Okay. We can talk. You'll learn more about it if you look in Sefer Shmuel. Sefer Shmuel. That would be the great source for it. When Shmuel has the witches, this lady, to call down the soul of Shaul HaMelech. So we see how much pain Shaul is in, and maybe next time, next Wednesday, I'll begin with a story that will relate to this, and you'll continue to be inspired. I thank the Rabbi. I thank you all for the opportunity, and
Thank you, Rabbi Klatzko.
awesome day.
Thank you.
Shikoyach.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.